And it turned out he did have a banana in his pocket. What's up, YouTube? It's Big Ryan the Fat Guy. Week 11 was lukewarm for us. We ended up going 6-6-1, highlighted by wins from the New York Giants and Cincinnati Bengals. We were highest on the Bears, who ended up pushing. And as always, the Browns managed to bite us in the ass again. Huh, Fat Guy?
If anyone watched that game, which I'm assuming no one did, it was an awful, terrible result. Had to cover until the last second. Because, you know, the Browns are excellent at letting people down, so they did it to us once again. Along with the Raiders, too. There was no sunshine in Mexico somehow.
On to Week 12, Thanksgiving Thursday. The Minnesota Vikings traveled to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Minnesota Vikings are currently 2.5-point road favorites. Only 30% of the public are betting the Lions. Fat Guy, who you got?
I'm on the Lions this week. The Vikings did look fantastic in their win against the LA Rams last week. Defense in particular. But I'm feeling the Lions. The Lions had a really strong performance against the Bears. In particular, Stafford. Stafford was the difference. You put any other quarterback, well, not any other quarterback, you put a mediocre quarterback against the Bears last week, and the Lions wouldn't have had a shot. My money's on Stafford and the Lions.
The Los Angeles Chargers travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The game is currently a pick'em. 53% of the public have taken the Cowboys to cover at home. Fat Guy, who you got in this one?
I'm seeing a bounce back from the Cowboys. The Chargers are kind of have this halo over their head after they completely dismantled Buffalo. But a lot of that was, you know, intercepting 5 picks from a guy who's never played before, and arguably the worst start in NFL history to a game. I'm talking about the unfortunate Nathan Peterman. So they're kind of riding high on that, whereas Cowboys got really embarrassed by Philadelphia in primetime. I like the Cowboys to come back, and it's Thursday. It's a short week. They're at home. I'm on the Cowboys.
Next up, the New York Football Giants travel to Washington to take on the Redskins. The Redskins are 7.5-point favorites. Currently, 60% of the public have taken the Washington Redskins to cover at home. Fat Guy, who you got in this one?
I'm big on the Redskins this week. The Giants, they pulled off a great upset in overtime against the Chiefs in a 12-9 victory. And the Redskins were the victim of an awesome comeback to the Saints, 34-31 loss. The Redskins, they're just a tough team. They can really pile it on. They were up, I believe, over 14 at one point against the Saints. I don't see why they aren't going to trounce the Giants. The Giants had a big win last week, and it's going to come back to haunt them this Thursday.
Moving on to the Sunday early games, we'll start with the Cleveland Browns traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Bengals are 8-point favorites. Currently, 62% of the public have taken the Bengals to cover at home. Who you got in this one?
Much like the previous games, this is another do-up, do-down situation. I'm going to do what I seem to do every week, and I'm in my Browns jacket and my Browns jersey, and I'm going to put my Browns money in again this week. 8 points is a lot of points. It's a divisional game. It's a revenge game. I have very, very little faith in Deshaun Kaiser or the offense. Corey Coleman came back last week, and he looked pretty decent. The run game was abysmal. Mind you, but they were against the Jaguars. Not that it's going to be much easier against Cincinnati. I will say this, though. The Browns' D was on the field for a lot last week, and they looked decent. They look like a competent unit. I look to them to do the same against the Bengals. The Browns and the points.
Next up, we have the Chicago Bears traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are 13.5-point favorites. Currently, 85% of the public have taken the Eagles to cover at home. Fat Guy, who you got?
It's such a high number. Does anyone not think that's just an insane number? The Bears looked really good against the Lions. Trubisky's got a lot of work to do, but the defense looked decent. The run game looked decent, and it's hard to blow out the Bears because they play foxball. They try and control the clock. They use all 3 of their running backs. Howard as the bell cow, and as long as they can keep that run game going, even though that the vaunted Philadelphia Eagle run defense is really difficult to handle, I still think they're going to be able to pull off moving the ball just a little bit and keeping it close enough to keep it within the number. Give me the Bears and give me the 13.5 points.
Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. The Patriots are 17-point favorites. Currently, 72% of the public have taken the Patriots to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got?
This is almost the exact same scenario as the Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Patriots completely dismantled the Raiders. Completely embarrassing loss. They can't look any better. They're on a 6-game winning streak, and the Dolphins had a pretty poor performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not saying the Dolphins are, Dolphins normally wouldn't be worth putting money on in this situation, but 17 is just a huge number. It's a huge number. Wouldn't put a lot on it, but give me the Fins, give me the points.
Next up, the Buffalo Bills travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites. Currently, 56% of the public have taken the Chiefs to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got in this one?
How many double-digit dogs are there going to be? The one thing I'm worried about this is it going to be another Nathan Peterman disaster? For the looks of it, he's probably going to start. Tyrod Taylor could start. If Tyrod starts, my money is all in on the Bills. If Peterman starts, I'm reluctantly taking the Bills. Again, 10 points is just a huge number, and both those teams, they like to run the ball. The clock's going to be running the entire time. Give me the Bills, give me the points.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. The Falcons are 10-point favorites. Currently, 33% of the public have taken the Falcons to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you have in this one?
This is going to sound bizarre, but I'm going to go against what I usually like doing. I'm laying the points this time. The Bucks didn't look that good against the Dolphins. The Dolphins did not look that good against the Bucks. Atlanta had a decent performance against the Seahawks with a win this Monday, but I like Atlanta to really tear one off on the Bucks this weekend. 10's a big number, but I think it's a number they can cover, despite it being a divisional game.
Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers traveling to New York to take on the Jets. The Panthers are 4-point road favorites. Only 14% of the public have taken the Jets to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you have in this one?
This might be my favorite. The Jets were considered an 0-16 candidate, but they hang around every week. They've had a bye, mind you, so is Carolina, but they get 4 points at home. I like the Jets. The Jets are difficult to handle on defense. They don't have the greatest secondary, but Carolina doesn't exactly abuse secondaries. Newton's healthier, so he's been running the ball a lot more. Could prove troublesome for the Jets, but I think they're well equipped to handle it. Give me the points. Give me the Jets at home.
The next game up is the Tennessee Titans travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Titans are 3.5-point road favorites. Currently, 46% of the public have taken the Colts to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got? Titans or Colts?
I'm gonna stick with the Titans. My Titans. They had a poor performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night, but I like them to have a bounce back this week against the Colts. The Colts have been pretty strong defensively, but I think Tennessee is going to be able to crack them. Also, there's a question mark at quarterback as to who's going to play. It'll probably be Brissett, but in any other case, it's going to be a nightmare if Brissett isn't able to suit up. So give me the Titans.
That's it for the morning games. Now we're going to move on to the Sunday afternoon games. We'll start with the Seattle Seahawks traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The Seahawks are 7-point road favorites. Currently, 35% of the public have taken the 49ers to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you have? Seahawks or Niners?
Well, it's 7 points, divisional game, and at home. I'm on the Niners. The Seahawks, they're very capable of blowing out the Niners. But in their first game, the Niners should have won. They kept it very close on the road. CJ Beathard is starting, but we might be able to see a little Jimmy Garoppolo if we're lucky. Give me the Niners. Give me the points. Give me a Shanahan win.
Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Rams are 2.5-point favorites. Currently, 45% of the public have taken the Rams to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you have in this one?
The Saints have the longest winning streak in the NFL, I believe. I'm thinking that it's going to get snapped this weekend. I said that it probably would against the Bills. It should have against the Redskins, but I think it will against the Rams. It's a tough traveling schedule for them, going all the way from Louisiana to California. So I like the Rams, and the Rams need to bounce back. It was a decent performance against Minnesota. I mean, they only put up 7, but they were against a really tough defense, and that was an enjoyable game. It only got out of hand in the fourth quarter. They were in it the entire time. I like the Rams. I like the Rams to bounce back. And I like the Rams to kind of expose the New Orleans Saints defense, who's riding pretty high at the moment.
Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. The Jags are 4.5-point road favorites. Currently, 19% of the public have taken the Cardinals to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got in this one, the Jags or the Cards?
I actually like the Cardinals to win. I watched the Texans-Cardinals game twice. It was really enjoyable. Gabbert looked pretty good. It's hard to even say that because Gabbert was awful for Jacksonville, wasn't much better for San Francisco, but he looked kind of comfortable in red and white. Jacksonville didn't look that too hot against Cleveland either. I like Arizona at home. I think they're going to cover. I think they're going to win. I hope they use a lot less Adrian Peterson, though, because it seems to stagnate teams unless he goes off for a big day, and it's really hard for him to do at this age.
The final Sunday afternoon game is the Denver Broncos traveling to Oakland to take on the Raiders. The Raiders are 5-point favorites. Currently, 61% of the public have taken the Raiders to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you have in this one, Broncos or Raiders?
I don't want to have to pick anyone, to be perfectly honest. Both teams have been so underwhelming. The Raiders just had an absolutely putrid performance against the New England Patriots in Mexico. Really, their only threat on offense is to really just chuck it. And it doesn't even look like their defense is existent. The one thing I do like about the Broncos is they fired their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, and they replaced him with Bill Musgrave. Now, Bill Musgrave was the offensive coordinator of the Raiders last season, and they got rid of him to promote a young guy, Todd Downing, who hasn't exactly done a bang-up job in Oakland this year. I like Musgrave to kind of jolt the Broncos. Now, we don't know who's going to play at quarterback. I hope it's not Brock Osweiler. I hope they go back to Simeon. Prefer not Paxton Lynch, but it would at least be entertaining to see. I like the Broncos here, and you're getting 5 points, too. Raiders, another team that's becoming a dumpster fire a little bit.
Now we're going to move on to Sunday Night Football, where the Green Bay Packers are traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Steelers are currently 13.5-point favorites, and 69% of the public have taken the Steelers to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got in this one, the Packers or the Steelers?
As I mentioned last week, I have no confidence in Brett Hundley, and it was proven to be temporarily right against the Ravens. The Ravens defense, they absolutely exposed them. They beat them every which way. I don't know if the Steelers are going to be able to do that. I think they're going to game plan a little bit better, the Packers. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win, but 14, as usual, is just a really big number. I'm not sure the Steelers can cover that. I'm hoping there's a lot of Jamal Williams. I'm hoping there's some exotic packages, because the Packers, they have a chance to salvage their season if they're able to rattle off a couple wins, and they won't do it playing like they did against Baltimore on the weekend.
On Monday Night Football, we have the Houston Texans traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens are 7.5-point favorites. Currently, 49% of the public have taken the Ravens to cover at home. Fat Guy, who do you got, Texans or Ravens?
I got the Texans. 7.5 points plays into that quite a bit. Now, as good as the Ravens scoreline was on the weekend, it wasn't due to their offense. Their offense didn't look good at any juncture. Their defense looked incredible. The Texans, they're able to poke holes in most defenses. Hopkins is of the best receivers in the league. They don't exactly have the quarterback presence without Watson, but Tom Savage played a pretty decent game against the Cardinals. They have weapons on offense. They will be able to move the ball against Baltimore's defense, as tough as that is. And their defense is going to show up against Joe Flacco and company, who really, really, really have struggled.
On to the lightning round. We'll start with the Thursday games. Who do you got, Minnesota or Detroit?
Let's go the Thanksgiving Lions.
Continuing on Thursday, the Chargers at the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Giants at Redskins.
The other Thanksgiving Redskins.
Moving on to Sunday, we have Cleveland at Cincinnati.
Yeah, the Browns again.
Chicago at Philadelphia.
The Bears.
Miami at New England.
Give me the lowly Finns.
Buffalo at Kansas City.
Bumbling Bills.
Tampa Bay at Atlanta.
Feisty Falcons.
Carolina at the Jets.
The Jets.
Tennessee at Indy.
My Titans.
Moving on to the Sunday afternoon games, Seattle at San Francisco.
Niners.
New Orleans at the Rams.
New Look Rams.
Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Arizona.
The Cards.
Denver at Oakland.
The Angry Colts. The Denver Broncos.
And for Sunday Night Football, Green Bay at Pittsburgh.
Give me the Pack.
And Monday Night Football, Houston at Baltimore.
Give me the Texans.
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more Big Ryan the Fat Guy.